Hello, time travelers! nVidia has their own image creation tool now, and here it is, called Santa, and these are some example outputs they have. And it's lightning fast, and I said lightning because I'm comparing it to the speed of like SDXL lightning or something like that. And I've got the solution in this video if you've already tried to install and using it and it's only generating gray images. I've also got the solution if you want to try the Google model and you can't figure out how to get it to download into ComfyUI because it's all weird and you try all the things online and it just doesn't work. Well, I figured it out. This is my look of disapproval. All right, here's the sections for this video if you want to skip to a part of the video and just watch that part, or if you like watching things in a different order than what I said it in. That's fine, I don't care, I'm not your grandpa. Section 1 is going to be about the licenses, so you can look at them and see if you, agree with the terms or know not to do things you're not supposed to be doing. And number 2 is the requirements. Wait, what your computer needs to have in order to run this stuff. Number 3 is the prerequisites that you're going to need to install in order to get this stuff to work. Number 4 is the installation steps, which are above and beyond just regular installing Comfy. And 5th, we're going to be talking about the different models that you have to download. Section 6 is kind of a long one because it's about workflows, and it also has to do with the models because some of the models you can't just download, you have to do it with the workflow. It's freaking stupid. This is my look of disapproval. Number 7th are some example generations that I've done. And then section 8 is my conclusion and my thoughts about Santa. All right, let's get started about the licenses. We got nVidia, MIT, and all these people that worked on the project together. Usually MIT's licenses are pretty cool, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, past all this stuff, the website is licensed under blah, 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 blah. But what about the model? If I hit Control F and do a search over here and type license, that's the only license. So let's look at the Google Gemma, which is one of the model things. It's kind of like the TXX whatevers that Flux and SD3X use. Go to the model card over here, license. Google's usage license. You have to log in to actually read the license, and then it's not even there, it's a link. And here it is. Their license says, do not do stuff in the prohibited use policy, which is a link off to this. And it basically says, don't make bad things. And yeah, okay. It basically says, don't generate anything inappropriate. And there's a few examples, like anything that incites or promotes violence, tracking or monitoring people without their consent. I mean, what? How? Making automated decisions about housing, insurance, and healthcare? What? I think that's because it's a general policy for all their AI stuff. It says, don't make defamatory content, blah, blah. Yeah, well, you know what that is. Don't make something that looks like it's someone else doing something that they're not actually doing. You should read it. Okay, moving on. And then the Gemma Unsloth one, which is the one everyone else on the YouTube is using. And my guess is because they haven't figured out how to download this one, I have. Let's click on that and check their license. Apache 2.0, view license file. I just typed commercial, blah, 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 limitation of liability, blah, blah, blah. So far, so good. You're even allowed to redistribute it. And as far as I can tell, you can use it for commercial purposes. Let me see, what does it say about derivative works? Like if you train your own model. Basically, you can do stuff with it. Now let's check the other ones. Some of these are weird. This is the actual checkpoint on Hugging Face. And this makes me go, huh? Go over to model card, Control F license. All right, whatever the frick that is. It says produce, reproduce, and share adapted material for non-commercial purposes only. Now here's something strange. I'm sitting here struggling filming this video, and this is the name of the license, and I have it linked here in my document. And it said section 2, scope. And I saw the model is intended for research purposes only. This, and I copy pasted it from here. I'm pretty sure. This non-commercial use only with a dash in it isn't there. Reproduce and share licensed material in whole or in part for non-commercial use only. Produce, reproduce, and share adapted material for non-commercial purposes only. but it used to have this exact phrase. The model is intended for research purposes only, and it's not in there. This is literally just 24 hours since I first read this and wrote this note here. I'm gonna write this. It used to say this. Non-commercial share-alike license. So what about generated works? Okay. Derivative works. I'm not sure. And I'm not going to spend forever on this since it's got that in there. All right, let's move on to section number 2, which is requirements, what your computer has to have to run this stuff. You can click here, which is the GitHub repo, nVlabs, which is nVlabs that, I showed you this earlier. It's nVidia. You have to have an nVidia GPU. If you have a GTX GPU and you change your settings to use FP16 and not BF16, well, I actually put or RTX 20,000 series. Tell me in the comments if it works. But RTX 3000 and newer is what supports BF16, which is a better floating point algorithm math. Now, on the requirements, they say you need more VRAM than my testing showed. You need at least 8 gigabytes of VRAM to run the 600 million model, but the 1.6 billion model, you need at least 10 gigabytes of VRAM. That's from my testing. And you'll see drop downs where you choose BF16 or FP16 if you want to try it on an older GPU. I thought these numbers might have been for training because I was able to use GPUs with less VRAM than what they said. But then later I found where it says that you need 32 gigabytes of VRAM for training. Ouch! On their documentation that the 6 million model, which is 0.6 billion, needs 9 gigs of VRAM. I was able to run it on RTX 3070, which has 8. And I was able to use an RTX 3080 on the larger 1.6 billion model because it's got 10 gigabytes of VRAM, even though their documentation says you need to have at least 12. So here's from my testing. A viewer on a recent live stream I did showed me how to reset the maximum used VRAM number in Hardware Info 64. Like, check it out right now. It says the max of my RTX 3090 usage since this has been open has been 7.5 gigabytes of VRAM. But if I hit this little clock symbol down here, it goes down. So that's how I was able to get all these numbers. Anyways, 600 million model. This is after you generate an image and it's just sitting there and it has all the models loaded in VRAM. How much memory it had after like 2 or 3 minutes. 3070 had almost 5. Over 5 on the 3080, 3080 Ti, almost 5, and 5.5 almost on the 3090. While generating an image, the 3070 was over 5. 3080 was almost 8, and over 5 gigabytes for the 3080 Ti, and over 5.5 for the 3090. Who knows why it goes all over the place like that? All 3 of these GPUs were tested in the same computer, just swapped it out. And the 3090 was tested in my main editing rig. Moving on to the 1.6 billion model, just having Comfy running after generating an image. Obviously, the 3070 did not work. I did test it and it threw weird errors because that machine has an AMD GPU built into the CPU. When this particular model or workflow or whatever, the nodes, I think, when it ran out of VRAM, it tried to use the VRAM in the CPU's built-in GPU, and it gave me like all these weird tensor errors or whatever they were. I don't remember. Okay, anyways, 3080 using almost 7 and over 7 for the 3080 Ti and almost 8 for the 3090. Again, this is just leaving it open after you generated an image, showing that even with a 10 gig card, you'll have VRAM left over when you're not generating an image to do other stuff on your computer. Now, look at these numbers for while it's generating an image. This is the peak VRAM use. 3080 was about 9.5, so I had half a gig, so maybe I could have a couple tabs open in a web browser. And then 3080 Ti was almost 10 gigs out of the 12, so I could have more stuff running. And obviously, I could have a bunch of stuff running for the 3090, and this is weird. While generating it, it was only using 7.4 gigabytes of VRAM. So on to like hard drive use after installing Comfy and all the required nodes and everything and downloading the models. Depending on what models you download, the Comfy folder could be anywhere from 35 to 50 gigabytes. And that's before you start generating images. The default workflows don't save your images, but if you do have a different workflow or you add the node that saves your files, keep in mind, your storage use is going to be going up. All right, section 3, installing the prerequisites. Python, install 3.10.11. Why we use 3.10 is because most AI tools use that. Some use newer ones. You kind of have to learn how to sandbox those. This just covers everything. You're going to need Python of some version anyway. If you're using a portable version, it has its built-in Python. You're going to need to have Python installed anyways to install some of these nodes because installing them inside the manager doesn't work. On the Python page, which I'll have linked in the descriptables, obviously, you scroll down and you want this one right here for Windows, the 64-bit one. While installing it, there's a checkbox that you have to check at the first screen that says Add Python to Path. Do not skip that. Don't forget it. And yes, I'm showing you a screenshot from a different version. Shut up. Also install Git. We're going to be needing that. It's for downloading stuff off of repos. And if you don't like doing that, I'm sorry. This is just the best way to do it. It's best to just learn it now. Get the Windows version. And when you're installing it, there's no special things you got to take notice of, except you have to click next about 1 billion times. And then restart the computer. That way, the path to Python will be active when you start doing the other stuff. All right, section 4, installation. Obviously, we're not going over all the steps to fully install Comfy. If you need to know how to do that, then you need to check, over here, this video, I already did that because you need to install special things and all that stuff. Finish that, get Comfy up and running, and then come back here. Do not install the nodes this way. The vase will not load and won't generate images. This is how you're getting the generating gray images, where you go into the manager and do the custom nodes manager and then put in extra models for ComfyUI. I'm going to show you what I mean. So you're in here and you hit manager. And if you don't have manager, you need to see that video I mentioned just a second ago about how to install and set up ComfyUI. Custom nodes manager, and then search and put in extra models for ComfyUI, and you see this. Do not install it from here. If you did, you need to go ahead and uninstall it right here. Wait for that to finish, and a box telling you to restart will pop up. Click that. After it restarts, hit F5 on your keyboard, and it will do this. You'll know it's done restarting by checking the console, because it will come back in about this area up here. It will have the URL for ComfyUI. So here's the actual install. First, we're going to do the portable version of Comfy. Show you how to do that. This is my ComfyUI that I set up and tested for Sana. And you're going to be in this folder in the command line. And you're going to have to CD, which means change into a folder, ComfyUI / custom nodes. Right? Got it? This is why you need to have Git installed, because you're going to Git clone this repo where those nodes are. Show it to you for a hot second. There you go. All you would do is copy this, go over here, type git space clone space, and paste in the repo. And that's going to install those nodes into a folder for you. I already have it installed. That's why it says it already exists. And then you need to cd up 2 folders and then run Comfy again, which is cd.enter, cd.enter. And now run _nVidia and then run your Comfy. Now let's show you how to do it for the Git clone version of Comfy. Go into my ComfyUI Santa folder. You change into the folder that says custom nodes. And then you do the Git clone. Ba-bam. Already exists, but yours would take a minute or two to download, and cd ... only up 1 folder, and then run Comfy from there however you have that set up. All right, section the 5th. We're going to be talking about the models. You got different things. You've got checkpoint configuration over here. This node likes to download stuff. Don't let it, because it puts it in a weird folder and then it breaks things. This node likes to download stuff. It works right away with the Unsloth one. This top one is the Google one. You have to do some configuration to get that to download. The Gemmas are kind of like the T5XXL. There's an 8-bit and there's also a 16-bit for your Flux or your SD 3 point whatevers. If you go over here, you've also got the VE. And this one, you can download and or use an option in here and let it download it for you. Both will work. Let's talk about the first one. So here's a screenshot I did where the GitHub repo for Sana used to link to where the models are at, and that's not there anymore. So those videos that they made like 2 days ago in relative to my time aren't valid anymore. Isn't that crazy? And then later on, the no-called Sana checkpoint loader can download models, but they download to the wrong folder and break things. So I said that. Okay, anyways, this is what it looks like when it downloads to the wrong folder. Here's my Comfy install, and then models, and then it makes a folder called Sana. And then a folder with the name of the model, and then a folder named checkpoints, and then downloads the model file into there. This is my look of disapproval. And also confusion. What? First, you need to log into Hugging Face. Checkpoints will go into this folder. Your ComfyUI installation, and then models, and then checkpoints. This is the most common one you'll be using. The one where you gotta have at least 10 gigabytes of VRAM to run. And when you download it, it's about 6 gigabytes of storage. It's the 1.6 billion, which is what the 1600 million means right here. And it generates images at 124 pixels. Click that, files and versions, and you go over here to download it, and it'll download. There's also the 600 million that also does 1024 pics. And for some reason, this one's multilingual, I guess. That's cool. It's only 2.21 gigabytes. You click this, and you download it from here. Obviously, I'll have all the pertinent stuff linked in the descriptables below. I also will have this document in my Tier 2 folder for my Patreon subscribers. So Tier 2 or Tier 3 will have access to this. You go into my Tier 2 folder, there'll be a folder that says Undocumented Solutions, which is my joke about people not documenting their stuff on their repos. Open that up, and you're gonna see all these documents in here. And you want this one right here, nVidia, Sana, and ComfyUI. There's also some 512 pixel checkpoints. I found 3 of them, but I couldn't get any of them to work. They threw errors about the size being wrong or something. I don't know. Whatever. Moving on. The VEs. They go in the folder, your ComfyUI installation, and then models, and then VE. There are 2 that you can download. As far as I can tell, they are the same. I tested them, and they generated images that looked exactly the same. Now, here's the thing. Both of these, you got to make sure you rename them, because it's kind of dumb. I'll open them up and show you. Here's one. Here's the other one. This one's Efficient Large Model, so that one's from Google. This one's MIT nVlabs, okay? This one says Sana 1600M 1024 pics diffusers, and this one says DCAE, which makes more sense because AE means autoencoder, because that's what a VE is, but look at the file. Diffusion _ PyTorch _ model.savetensors. Go to the other one. They stored it with Git large filing system, which means they won't show it to you here. You gotta click the thingy. And look, it's diffusion _ PyTorch _ model.savetensors. I recommend you name them like this. What I did on this one is I took all of that and copied it, and then went like this. That makes sense, you know? Do whatever you want, as long as you know that this file is a VE, that's gonna help you a ton. And here's the strange thing, is that MIT nVlabs has another VE, which is named DCAE F32C32, which, if you're running the node that's older that generates gray images, won't download. But if you get the updated one that you do with the Git clone, it will download the VE for you. And again, it's 1 point whatever gigs. When it downloads, you'll see this in the console, fetching 8 files. And it makes its own folder. This is also very weird. And I like all my things to be in a separate folder that just says Sana. I'll show you why. That way it says Sana over here. That way when I'm loading my workflow and I'm trying to select a model, I'll know which one of my copies of ComfyUI I'm running. And down here, you see how I have Sana here. So it kind of throws me off, and I'm afraid to move it into the Sana folder because it might break it. All right, section the 6th, workflows. I thought this page had workflows. These should be workflows, but they're not. All the metadata is gone in these. Not only that, if you click on one of these and you try to copy the prompt like this by dragging the mouse over, as soon as you let go of the mouse, it goes away. So you have to go like this and hit Control-C before you let go of the mouse. And if you time it wrong, or if your mouse is in the wrong spot, it won't copy. This is my look of disapproval and frustration. What are you doing? These are the workflows that I found by digging around the GitHub repo. Obviously, I'll have this linked in the descriptables below, or you can just follow along in the document if you're on my Patreon. Here's a Sana workflow. And there's also one with CogVideoX, which is kind of fun. I've been working with Boyos in my Discord to experiment with image generation as flowing into video generation, which could make for some fun assets for videos. But I'm going to show you how to download this. Once you have one clicked and you can see the actual file, you go over on the right, it says download raw file. You download that. I recommend that you make your own folder to be keeping all your workflows in. So you see I got ComfyUI, and then I go to workflows, and I've got all these folders. So Boyos and I are working on stuff. You see those? And then I got the Sana one, and there's a couple workflows Boyos worked on, and the 2 workflows that are on this GitHub repo are in there. If you don't know how to load a workflow in here, if you got the newer Comfy, you can hit workflow and then open, and it'll browse to the file. Or you can literally just drop a workflow onto here like that. You see how it reset that? Because that's the size that's in that workflow of that node. If I grab it, I can resize it again if I want. All right, I'm going to show you how to set up the 600 million model. You need to go up here to Sana checkpoint loader and choose the 600 million 1024 pix multi-ling. Click that. Then on the bottom one, you choose SAN MS 600M P1D28. Now, for this one, for some reason, it lets you choose SAN MS 600M or 1600M. In this case, it would be 600M P1D28, or you choose 1024. It doesn't matter, because you're not actually getting stuff out of the model. You're just extracting 1024 and 1024. If you want to change the aspect ratio, it's kind of weird. For example, 1.78 is 16 by 9, because I like to make 1920 by 1080 stuff. Actually, I make 1024 by 576 and then I upscale it. But it's not here. It's 1.75. And I'm wondering if 1.78 would work. It's just they didn't give us the option here. Because you can't just type in. It's a filter with a drop down. And I know it'll do other resolutions because Boyos did a workflow and it accepts other resolutions just fine. So I'm thinking that they're new at developing these nodes, which is probably why their old version broke. And anyway, I'm moving on. Anyway, Gemma loader, you're going to have to choose a Gemma. And a Vey, you're going to have to choose a Vey. But we're going back. I'm going to show you the same options except for how to get the 1.6 billion model going. Go back up here. You want the 1600_1024 pix one. And then for this, you choose 1600 P1D20. For here, it's 1024 or the 1600M P1D20. Then you choose a Gemma and a Vey. If you want to test with the 512s, obviously you would have to have one of these 2 512s in there. And then if it's 1600 or 600, choose the model that matches, and then choose 512 from right here. My guess, I've tried this and that and that, and I can't get them to work. For the Gemma loader, the Unsloth and the Google extra large model one, they may generate stuff that looks a little different. This one, once you hit that and then hit run, it'll start downloading it, and you'll see it in the console that it's downloading 12 things. I don't know why it's 12. It's a folder full of a bunch of stuff. The other one, there's a configuration I'm going to tell you about later on, how to get that one to download. For the extra Vey loader, you choose one of the ones you downloaded or this top one right here. And this top one will download. If you get these kind of Vey errors when trying one of the Veys you downloaded, then you need to change the Vey type to a specific option. You have to go on this drop down and mouse wheel up, because for some reason ComfyUI wants to drop that way down there. It's like they're not aware that there's a bottom. You click this one at the bottom that says DCAE F32C32 Sana, whatever. I don't know why you have to do that. It's kind of dumb. If you have an older GPU and you want to try Sana, go in the Gemma loader node and find the setting Vey type. Click that. BF16 is the default, and you could try changing it to FP16. Changing this for me didn't change the image at all, but changing the D-type option over in the Gemma loader did. Check it out. All right, ignore how weird this image is, but just note that this is the FP16 one, and that's the BF16. All right, BF16, FP16, FP16, BF16. Slightly different. BF16 is supposedly better. At least it was when I was doing testing for other things. All right, let's talk more about the Gemma loader a little bit. The Unsloth one is the one that downloads itself. It's fine and it works. And it downloads itself into this folder. Your ComfyUI installation, and then models, and then text encoders. And it's about 2.09 gigabytes. I think it might be from here. I'll show you the repo. It's just modeled as safe tensors. That's weird. But if you download this and put it in the folder, it won't work. So you can't save time with that. I have tested where you copied it from one computer to another and it worked, if you let the folder structure in exactly the way it had it. Also in the Gemma loader, you can try the Google Gemma, which is the one that says efficient large model, and I'm going to show you how to do it. First, you go to this Hugging Face page. You got to be logged in, so I'm going to copy paste this over to a browser where I'm logged in, to ComfyUI. All right, you see that I'm logged in over here. You see these model 1, 2, and 3 of 3, whatever. And it says Google Gemma 2b, okay? You will need to first go to the model card tab on this page and then agree to the terms. You go over to here, go up to your profile icon over here on the top right, then go to access tokens. See, I already have one. I'm going to copy this because I need this here in a minute, because you're going to need that in a second. Hit create new token, and I'm going to name mine Google Gemma -2-2b space demo. So you can name it just this part. It's good because then you'll know what you made it for. Then you do not have to check or mess around with any of this stuff at all. Scroll down where it says org permissions not specified. Click in here and put in Google space Gemma -2-2b. It won't let me do it right now. I think it's because I already have a token like that. So what I'm going to do is go back, cancel that, and go like I'm going to edit this one that I already made so you can see what it looks like. Edit permissions. Scroll down and see how it's in there as a thing. And this will already be checked for you. Read access for that repo. Once you've got that sitting there like that, scroll down and hit save token. And you're done making your token. It'll have a pop-up box telling you what the token is. Copy that over the notepad. So I'm gonna open up notepad right here, and it's gonna look like HF underscore, and then a whole bunch of like letters and maybe numbers, who cares? Copy that. Now bring up a command line window like this. You're gonna paste this command in. I'll have it linked in the descriptables below. Pip space install space dash uppercase U space with quotes all around Hugging Face underscore hub with brackets CLI. I already have it installed, so it's gonna go by real fast. Yours might take longer if it has to download a bunch of stuff. And now we need to log in to Hugging Face using the Hugging Face hub CLI, which is command line interface. Paste in this command that I'll have in the description below, which is Hugging Face -CLI space login, and press enter. Enter your token. Input will not be visible. If you fail and you put in nothing by copy pasting wrong, it'll still say add token as get credential when you hit yes, and then you can have all these errors. That's why I have notepad. So you copy in notepad and then go to another line and make sure it can paste. Then you go over here and right click and then press enter and then type Y for yes and then press enter. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to screw up that I'm already logged in to it with my token. Now, after doing that, load up ComfyUI. Don't load up ComfyUI before doing that. You have to do that first. And then you can choose this one. And when you hit Control Enter, like this, see how it's trying to run? Your console will see how it says fetching 12 files. It only took a split second. It will say like this, fetching 12 files, and it will take a while. And it's about 9.75 gigabytes. All right, now let's talk about the better workflow that Boyos made. I'm gonna actually put these in a free folder on my Patreon. I have a hidden tier, which is free stuff. So here's my Google Drive that I send people links to in my Patreon. Free stuff, and then a Santa folder, open that up, and then ComfyUI workflows. This is his basic one, and this is his one with custom resolution. Now what's cool about his is that it works all the same. Like you choose all your stuff, make sure you got it all lined up, and you've got your VE underneath your checkpoint and your Gemma, which is the way it should be. I think he just left this over here in case you wanted to use it for the old resolution chooser thing. Then positive prompt, negative prompt, and then your resolution right here, 1920 by 1080, worked for me. Whereas over here, to get close, I had to choose 1.75. Okay, and then here's your positive prompt, negative prompt. Sorry, I didn't talk about that earlier. And then all your seed control, CFG and steps, sampler, and all that denoising strength is over here. And his is organized better. His actually has a preview and a save image over here. And what's also really cool is he's got a way to turn off save image if you don't want to save images, and it just disables that whole section. So watch this. This is how fast Santa is. Boonk. So fast. Yep. Here's another weird thing. I was trying to change the batch size and I was having problems. So I noticed the default workflow is not even using the Sana latent image thing that has a batch size selector in it. They're using empty DCAE latent image. This one wouldn't do more than one image at all. I just wouldn't even try. But if you delete that node and put in the correct node, it will. It'll let you choose a larger batch size. But even with a batch size of only 2, was too much for the VRAM of the 3090. It peaked my VRAM all the way up to 12 point whatever gigabytes, and it output garbage. All right, section 7th. I'm gonna show you some examples of the stuff I generated. And it's gonna show you what the capabilities of this model actually are. All right, these were made just using the default workflow for Sana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but none of them are thumbs. And, you know, I was just copy pasting a prompt from my Flux video. That's why it says Flux. And this is supposed to be Halle Berry, but it's not. And then I added the negative prompts of unrealistic cartoon and drawing and animated, and it's still unrealistic, cartoonish, animated, etc. Ugh. And there's subscribe to Robert Jene, the best generation I got with weird funky eyes, weird funky teeth, right number of fingers with the thumb not showing, okay. And I did notice with most of my generations, they did have the right number of fingers though. It looks weird a little bit. So they've got a lot of potential there if they can improve Sana. And there's where I put into the negative prompt bad writing and bad eyes to see how much better the eyes would get and the writing. It got a little bit better, but not much. This is me trying aspect ratio 1.75, and for some reason, it made 1344 by 768 images. There's the Halle Berry prompt, which is not looking like Halle Berry at all. And subscribe to Jene, okay? All right, and then that's supposed to be a Camaro, apparently. Now, here's using my Flux prompts with the Boyo workflow. It does duplicates a lot if you're doing wide aspect ratio images. And I put 1920 by 1080, and this is what it made. Of course, I should have put 1024 by 576, and then, because that's how I do it in Forge or Automatic 1111. The eyes and the text is just wrong. It's so wrong. The hands, at least the right number of fingers. Here's Halle Berry on the beach, did duplicates again, and eye colors are not matching on that one. And it's like, I told the thing I wanted her to be lying on the beach, and she kind of is, so whatever. And there's when I first tested trying to do a batch of 12. This is what it thinks a Nova looks like. Wrong. There's the Camaro image you saw earlier, except this time it's 1152 by 640. In this case, I think I put in 1024 by 576, so moving on. Here's the prompt when I wrote ban SD3 because it will steal from you. And the hand's weird. The face is the best part here. The writing's all terrible. And then here's another generation, just all wonkaboo. Here's the subscribe to Robert Jene tests. Sub-aside Jene, okay? It's like she's wearing a band-aid here and hiding that finger, but then this finger also ends here, but ends here, and its fingernail is over there. Weird. And that's what it did when it did a batch of multiples. It's just one image. Gross. But here, Santa kind of like does the right number of fingers. That's my last one on that. All right, anyways. And now for self-promo section that I like to call,
shut up and take my money.
If you like videos where I spent a lot of time to get a whole bunch of nitty-gritty details about an AI subject instead of just spitting out a short video every week like most people do, then subscribe and consider throwing me a few dollary dues on Patreon. Link in the description below. I just spent all Friday evening, then the whole weekend, and then Monday evening, and Tuesday evening doing all this testing for you guys. And that's not even filming and editing. Anyways, I look forward to seeing you on my Patreon. Also, I will have Boyos YouTube page linked in the descriptables. He's starting to learn how to do AI voice and video generation stuff to make silly videos. And he's new to writing plots and scripts, etc. So please go check out what he's working on, be supportive, and help him improve. And I'm pretty sure he'll be able to make some great AI-generated comedy stuff. All right, section this many, 8. Conclusion and thoughts. The ComfyUI nodes that they made behave like they're alpha versions. Like they're not ready for public consumption at all. I mean, seriously, get your stuff together, guys. Number 2, images it produces look like SD 1.4 or even older, which, okay, if this is the first version and they're letting it out for public, which they shouldn't have let it out for public consumption yet, I see it has huge potential. The architecture works, okay? That's awesome, except for the 512 one, unless I'm doing something wrong or the nodes just aren't sending the right signals to each other or whatever. I don't know. And I don't know how they made their images over here and why they're such a high quality, because I couldn't replicate anything like these. Nowhere close. They don't have their workflows from these images publicized, and they're making it hard for you to grab these prompts. So it makes me wonder if they're hiding something. Maybe. The license is too restrictive. They're only allowing non-commercial use. I do see potential for them to be changing that. Like I said earlier, the license verbiage changed within a day. I was polishing up this script last night after finishing all my testing on multiple GPUs so you guys can know which GPUs you could expect to work on. And it said only for research purposes. That wording is gone. So hopefully they go the way of SD 3.5 and make it less restrictive. Because they want people to use this stuff. You gotta allow them. I'll throw this in here. Like I was talking about SDXL and Flux and SD 3.5 all have better licenses, functionality, better generated content, and are much easier to use. I am working on an SD 3.5 video, so tell me in the comments if you're looking forward to that. Mine's taking a while because I'm testing a bunch of different workflows, and I'm testing all the different versions of SD 3.x. Okay, so the people working on the Sana model need to get their stuff figured out. Really? You're nVidia and you've only made it this far? Either they don't know what they're doing, which I doubt, they're nVidia, or they got the wrong people on the project, or they've got a lot more that they're not showing us. Any of those ways, it is not ready for prime time. I don't think they should have publicized this yet, and they've got a lot more work they got to do on it before we can use it. But I do see the foundation is here for a great model. They just need to work on it more. All right, from the end screen, I'm gonna do like I did on the Flux video and just show you some of my random generations and play some music for you guys to listen to. And maybe at the end, you can click one of the videos that's there or head over to Patreon and send me some dollary dues. I've also put these images in my tier 2 folder where I keep prompt images for tier 2 and higher Patreon subscribers so they can get my prompts. And because these are made from ComfyUI, they also have the workflows in them as well. Keep in mind that these images you see here are the best ones out of the dozens that I did during my testing.